it is time to do part 2 of the studio status that we are going to be taking a look at PlayStation. Now, like I said before, we have now looked at Microsoft. We have looked at like a million of their studios, and we're talking about some of their games. And this is they're going to be their year 2023, hopefully for them. But PlayStation really is just smooth sailing. I mean, every year they always have some kind of banger coming out, and so they're not having that drought. Along with Nintendo, both of them are not having a drought every year. Almost every 2 or 3 months, they have a good game coming out of their belt. If do you agree or disagree with that?
I mean, you say smooth sailing, but I feel it
as games.
I know, but I just feel like they're kind of leaning on previous work done. I mean, Sony will have a great year. Like, I think as far as like their portfolio for next year, it'll be because we got Call of the Mountain. Whenever they launch their VR title sometime next year.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a really good VR experience for those that do like VR. It'll be great. Some of the other titles they got coming around. I don't think we'll see Spider-Man PS5 come around next year.
But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's going to come around. I'm trying to think what else do they...
But you're forgetting more of the partnership they have. Final Fantasy 16 is exclusive for a time being... coming for that concept coming out that summer.
And they've been quiet even on the episodic Final Fantasy VII remake stuff.
That is announced that they were going to talk more about at the end of 2023.
Okay.
So I think they're not trying to fight against 16. I think they're trying to have 16 have his own thing and not have war against itself. That's what I know so far.
Girl, the magic girl with the...
Forspoken.
Forspoken, that's one
that one's coming out early in January.
Yep,
so like Sony, because Sony still has some of the grip of the third parties exclusives. Mm-hmm. In that respect, along with Xbox, I think now they're probably going to get Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo finally coming on that one.
Yeah, I have it.
Over there. I actually am kind of interested in Deathloop, but regardless though, I mean, yeah, for the games for the first parties that are not coming out, their third party partnerships are taking those spots to help them out. So overall, I'm not surprised if they have some more up their sleeve that we don't know yet because we don't know the rest of their year. But there is some studios in there that we do know, and they have announced some of their games and what they've been doing, and we need to go take a look at their library of stuff. Now, due to this, we are not going through a lot of studios as Microsoft because due to Microsoft Studios, a lot of games got delayed, and now they're finally pushed out, as long as with Sony already kind of pushing some of their games out, they're kind of done for a little bit, So, Sucker Punch is not in this list because, they just had Ghost of Tsushima. You're not going to hear anything entirely new yet unless they're going to be some add-on to that. Santa Monica. I mean, God of War's already out.
Yep.
Naughty Dog. Last of Us Remake is out. Mm-hmm. Kojima with this Dev Studio. They're not owned by them. They partnered with them. But I believe Kojima is working with Microsoft on some project that we still don't know about. It has to do with cloud gaming or something like that. And so, but there is a couple of studios that are still around that just recently got acquired by Sony. So let's talk about some of them. Let's talk about Bluepoint Games. One of the best ports and remake studios around, right? Like when you hear a lot of those remakes come around, like Uncharted Nathan Drake collection or the God of War collection or the Gravity Rush, Shadow Colossus, and the Demon Souls that recently came out, that was Bluepoint Game. They've been partnering with them for quite a while. And they, regardless if you don't like the games or not, they're good polished ports that they hold it down. They were a good buy for them. I even said in one of my episodes that every studio needs a Bluepoint studio. Mm-hmm. Someone needs to be in charge of remastering all their classic games because Microsoft has a bunch of classic games. Like they should be the ones doing all the Fables, and all those kind of old school games. And the same thing with Nintendo; they're the ones that should be like doing old school like Mario games and all this stuff. Everyone needs a Bluepoint game. But regardless, though, they haven't been talked about since 2020, since they launched the Demon Soul game on there, and we're thinking that they're going to. I feel like they're going to talk about something in 2023. And I wonder, we talked about it off air. We'll talk about it now. What do we think they're going to remaster or remake next? And so one game that I think is obvious that everybody wants. I know you are personally against it because, I think you're against it because it's too obvious. It's almost like you don't want them to waste their talent on that. There's other titles. But regardless, though, I think everybody's been begging for a Bloodborne. I know it's a different party between like they want a Bloodborne 2, but I think also too people want the old Bloodborne to come back, and it wouldn't surprise me if Bluepoint was in charge of that. Since they did Demon Souls, it makes a perfect sense that they would do Bloodborne. And Bloodborne's still available. You still get that. I think you can still play on the PS5 also.
Yeah, you can play the PS5 version.
Yeah. Did you ever play the game at all?
I think I may have played the demo, but I'm not like a Demon Souls person. I know get good, new, blah blah blah. Like I'm old. I don't have nothing to prove. Like
you don't like the whole like trial and error, like the die to learn a lesson.
I don't mind, but I'm also at the point in my gaming career where I just the few times I do want to play games, I want to have fun, and a lot of times those games aren't fun for me. Like I just don't care.
Yeah, I always enjoyed those games, but I realize now, as also I'm getting older, that there's some games that are just worth one time going through, especially if you put a lot of hours in the struggle for it. Because the Soul games in general, along with this game and say like Sekiro or Elden Ring and all that stuff, the journey is awesome. But it's hard for me personally to go back to that because I put so much hours into that. It's like, do I want to go through that struggle again? Yeah, and then have to relearn everything again and rediscover everything for what that is. Now, I know people, I'm pretty sure they try to help fix that with like New Game Plus where like, and all this. But at the same time, like certain games, man, over 100 hours, it is hard to swallow without some good reason to go back to it. And I realize for me is if I can go back and play the game again, but I get to keep everything, or I can have fun like in a cheating way or just something more goofy for me to do it, then I'll do that in a heartbeat. But if it's from scratch, I'm starting from the bottom of the barrel again and do that, it's just not for me. But yeah, I think if anything on this list that we have, Bloodborne is definitely probably an easy answer for that. But another one we talked about was Infamous. And Infamous has been gone for a very long time. The last one was actually the expansion of First Light that was on the PS4. Okay.
Yeah, First Light.
Yeah. And so, and the second one, and it's based off the infamous
Second Son.
That's what it is, Second Son. And so, and I Second Son was kind of, I don't know, I think it was a little not as entertaining and fun, especially the character. I didn't like the character compared to Cole.
Yeah, he was different from Cole.
Yeah, and I prefer like if they remastered some of the old ones, I would prefer the ones with Cole. I think those ones were more entertaining. But you say, bump that. I want the collection. Let's just do all of them. And I agree with that 100%. Yeah. I like, we should do that. Because why? They did the Nathan Drake collection.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so like, why not? But if they had to choose one, I say start with the first one. I just say...
start with the first two.
First two, yeah. I'd say do the first two there, do some quality of life. Because seeing those games like remake, that world would look awesome.
Yeah, it would.
For what it is.
And it was good gameplay back in the day. And I think a lot of people that didn't have the opportunity in the PS3 was like really thriving to play Infamous and Infamous 2 could go back, play it. And 2 kind of got dark because it had like that DLC thing. It was kind of like almost like vampire-y or whatever. And people really liked that. So it would be nice if they could do a remake to Infamous. And I feel like it would be something like fans wouldn't expect. Like, the other game we just previously mentioned. This one would kind of be like out of like, it was like, oh my gosh, they're doing, like, I would buy, if they did an Infamous remake, like a remaster or remake, I would buy it because I'd be like, you know what? I do own the previous Infamous, but you know what? This is one more reason why I don't have to hook up my PS3 to play those. Now I can play it on my 5 or even my 4 Pro and be good, and it looks great. I can play it on 4K TV now.
Yeah, and you don't have to, and I'm not a big fan of it, but I don't think it's available yet, but worst case scenario of playing it stream through the PS Plus Essential, I believe, or Premium. What? And I think it's Premium.
Promote that service.
Yeah, you're Sony.
Hey, I don't buy it.
You don't buy it. Yeah. So I'm just telling people if they got their hands on it, that's the worst I would not do it at. Yeah. I actually prefer getting the physical edition.
Yeah, physical edition.
Because it's not that cheap. I mean, it's not that expensive actually.
No.
Especially like Sony did a good job towards the tail end that you get the collections, like your God of War, your Ratchet and Clank, your Jack and Dexter, and Infamous got that too. So if you can find that, I say guaranteed go get that hands down. And the last one we're gonna talk about is Warhawk. This is the one that kind of kind of hit me sideways. You kind of turning me on this, but
either you know or you don't know about Warhawk.
The Warhawk part of the Starhawks, basically the Hawk series.
Yeah, the Hawk series. So Warhawk was originally a game on like I want to say even the PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, and it was just like an airplane game. You know, you're a jet, you're shooting down other jets and whatnot. And so when Warhawk came, I didn't play those previous ones. I started out on the PlayStation 3 version, and it didn't have any story. There was no story. It was all multiplayer. So you boot up the game, you got one side, you got two sides. You got one faction, and you got your other. And you choose the faction based on how you like their plane designs. And the Warhawk was essentially a fighter jet, and kind of like it had a hover mode where it was like a helicopter, and you could like do a little bit more hovering, slow down your speed a little bit, do more ground support to tanks. And it was great because it was just a big map where you had your air battle, ground battle. You could even, I think, jump in the water on certain levels, and like you're like, you know, crossing areas, and you had
kind of got a Battlefield feel.
It was like Battlefield before like Battlefield really got really big. And like I just remember so many funs with my buddy Kaiser, his brother, and our other buddy named Ricky, and we would have like, it was like capture the flag, and we would like pick up the troop transport, which is like this big like jet thing, and you'd fly it across the level, and you'd have attached to it like a little Humvee, and you drop it and you drive in, and it's chaotic because shit's blowing up everywhere, and you're grabbing the flag and you're hopping back in the Jeep running, and you're like, pick me up, and then you got this big ass jet coming in and swooping you up and trying to drag you back to base, and then somebody hits you with an RPG and brings down. I mean, it was like insane.
He's having flashbacks.
Like, man, like I just remember all the barrel rolls I would do and throwing out the chafe, trying to dodge rockets hitting me. And I'm telling you, watch some like videos and trailers of Warhawk, and it is like good stuff. I mean, honestly, today that game is not dead. Like they have private servers of Warhawk running. I can connect my PS3 right now, do some configurations on my PC, and play Warhawk from my PS3 on like a private server. That's how dedicated this game is. Like people still play it around the world. And there used to be world tournaments where it would be like USA versus Canada or East Coast versus West Coast.
That's nuts.
And like I'm telling you, Warhawk has a fan base. Like that game was awesome. Now it doesn't feel the same as it does now because you're still playing on PS3 sticks. So, you know, it's not as tight as like the PS3 with the haptic feedback and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But that means that's why we needed more. Because could you imagine Warhawk would like, you're doing the lock on? Because when you would lock on to your like multiple rockets thing, it would be like, it would like count as you're like holding it down. Could you imagine just squeezing those 3D, those haptic
I don't know how that feels, Jerome. I don't have a PS5.
Man, like you squeeze the trigger, and then right when you're at your max thresholds of rockets you could output, you let go, and it fires off. And I'm telling you, boy, Warhawk, bring it back. But I don't think Sony would do that because Incognito's not really around as much anymore, and there are already so many multiplayer games out there, and people would be like, oh, this game sucks, it's boring. But I love Warhawk. I had a decent rank. I had a cool jet because you could decorate your little jet.
That's what's up.
I mean, it was fun.
What's up? Okay, nice soapbox there. I see it. I see it. This is my only chance to talk about this game. I'm going to go all out.
I am going to be an evangelist for Warhawk.
Okay, but overall, those are just a couple of games that we see what's happening because every other game that's been announced is a little bit too new for Bluepoint to do right now, and due to the craziness of the reaction of Last of Us Part 1 being released, along with the rumor talk of Horizon Zero Dawn, I don't think Bluepoint I hope Bluepoint is not part of that, and I hope they're doing something else that might surprise us. So.